Hey team, the other day we made a video and we talked about the Sackler family. Go ahead and check that card over there and catch up if you haven't seen it already. In it we talked about the consequences of all the litigation of the Sackler family trust. Long story short, they are no longer going to give money away. They're done with their philanthropic endeavors, and the Sackler Trust is going to pay the price, and so is everybody who has relied on them in the past for money, for the cash, for the funding. And okay, so today let's talk about this Oklahoma case because it directly affects them. This isn't with Purdue, but it's with Johnson & Johnson. OxyContin never had a lovable Joe Camel mascot. Isn't that true, though? So this is about the Oklahoma case. There's some reactions from it. I think these reactions are poignant. So let's go ahead and take a look. That appeal, Paul's got it right. That appeal, though, I mean, they're going to appeal it. They already said they would. Rob, yup, it's the drug maker's fault. That's the shake my head emoji. So he's being sarcastic there. Polly again, hopefully they will stop manufacturing opiates so that the majority of people they help, because they actually read the fucking directions and don't abuse them, will all be in pain and start killing the junkies for their dope. Nightmare scenario. Here's someone, Levi has an interesting point, but it's not really pertinent to this discussion, blaming yet somebody else. The insurance companies. But he does bring up a good point later on. Levi says, so what about us people with chronic pain? What about them? Here's my point. Wow, can't have an epidemic without patients willing to misuse their RX, doctors who are willing to write illegal RX, and pharmacies willing to fill them. Easier to blame deep pockets and be victims than take responsibility, which is exactly true. Here's the bottom line, guys. If you're addicted to opioids because you abuse them, it's your fault. It's nobody else's. Now, your doctor should be on top of things. If he's a good doctor, ethical doctor, or she, then they should be able to catch you. But ultimately, you're the patient. You have responsibility for your own health care. And if you're addicted to opioids, it's on you, man. I know you might have pain. And it might be chronic pain. And if you're chronic pain, then it's more about managing that addiction for the rest of your life, because the pain's never going to go away. So your need for opioids is never really going to go away. And cases like this make it really hard for you because you're lumped into the same category as everybody else. It's no longer a case-by-case issue with, does this person deserve this amount of pain pills for his pain that's different than this person who maybe has a different pain threshold? Maybe their pain's different. Everyone, pain is different. How are you going to say everyone who has pain should only have this much drug? That's not for you to say. How could you? That's for a doctor to decide, not for you. And if a doctor says in their medical opinion that more drug for the same illness for this particular person or the same malady for this particular person is warranted, then get out of the exam room, man. It's none of your business. Because what's happening here is you're making it worse. You're giving these people all the backup they need to not take responsibility. And the only way to kick a drug habit, the only way to kick addiction is to take personal responsibility for it. Nothing else works. Hey, look at AA. Look how much they fail because they think alcoholism is a disease. Guys, guess what? Addiction's not a disease. It's a mental disorder, sure, but it's not a disease. It's just not. And when you say it's a disease, you take responsibility away from you, the individual. And the only way to kick things is to take personal responsibility for it. So we move on. Here it goes. Responsibility, we don't need no stinking responsibility. See, it's always someone else's fault. Excellent point, Rob. Yeah, here's Kim. Yeah, Greg stole my thunder. It came as a complete and total surprise to everyone. Narcotics are addictive. Right? Who knew? Here's the problem. All pain medication that's used, Schedule 2. Every single one. Schedule 2, automatically. Which means that the propensity for it to be addictive to you is high, very, very high. However, the difference between a Schedule 1, which is completely illegal, and a Schedule 2, which you have to have a doctor's prescription for, is the medical use. There is an accepted medical use for drugs that are Schedule 2. There is none for Schedule 1. That's the only difference. They both have the same addiction potential. And anybody who says differently is lying to you. So If you're taking a Schedule II drug, if you're taking an opioid for pain medication, for pain management, and you don't think it's addictive, then I don't know what to tell you, man. And here's Steve. Let's talk about Steve real quick. We'll end here. I love how people that do not have to deal with chronic pain issues believe either CBD or other methods will work just as effectively. In fact, that's true. My brother is on... Hope you don't mind me telling you that. Anyway, yeah, he's from the VA. It's pain management for chronic pain that he got for his service. He's 100% disabled for that pain. He has a clear need for it, a clear need. And because of things like this, guess what? They're taking him off. And you know what they're telling him to do? CBD. CBD? You want me to smoke weed? I mean, yeah, if it works, great, hook it up. But they're taking away one pain med for another. Now, you can argue whether or not CBD is going to be addictive or not. At this point, it doesn't matter. It's about how does it affect your pain. Does it manage it? Or does it just sort of make you forget you're in pain until you remember again? Which is what people say is the response, what I've experienced anyway, when it comes to greens and CBD. Actually being on opioids, the pain goes away. I don't feel it anymore. Now, he's doing okay, but he's on a bunch of different things, and it's really causing a lot of stress for him. And that ain't right, man. He doesn't abuse his medication. He takes it responsibly. Let's go back to Steve. The thing is, active ingredients in any opioid actually works whether all other methods either fail completely. So for Steve, I don't know if it's fair to say across the board, because CBD might be exactly what somebody needs. They might also not be on much pain. I mean, nerve fibromyalgia, I think, is a help with that kind of stuff. But if you have actual pain from... I'm saying fibromyalgia is not actual pain, but I'm saying if your pain is from broken leg or trauma, physical trauma, getting teeth removed or an operation, they cut into you, CBD ain't gonna cut it, guys. It just isn't. So let's see. My doc, after pressure from his attorney and the group he's as a part of, have recommended the patients with high scores on some arbitrary criteria. I guess they give them they assess them, and if they're drug seeking or if they're there's a whole bunch of questions they go through. A doctor goes through to determine whether or not somebody is abusing their drugs. And if they score on that, if the doctor feels they're that thing, then they stop giving them the drugs, the pain meds. It says here, those with the high scores in the pain management systems that use medications, they're trying to switch them over to crystals and chanting to replace a substance that after years of trial and error have found the only thing that works. And they're saying that Steve is saying that his doctors now want to take him off of those proven pain pills and in favor of bullshit. Chanting and crystals and meditation. I mean... I think if that stuff helps you, you're not really hurting in the first place. But that's not for me to say, and it's not for you to say either. And that's the problem. Steve thinks, and his doctor thinks, or used to think, that he should have opioids. And now he doesn't because of pressure from outside. So outside groups are going inside the exam room, and that ain't right. And there's more consequences than just the aren't getting funded. Doctors' privileges are being taken away. Here's Sarah. People who don't have addictive personalities can become physically dependent upon prescription opioids too. Once they're cut off for any reason, they turn to street alternatives. Anyone can get sucked in by an unscrupulous doctor. Very true. Very, very true. And we've seen research that shows up to, if you're on pain pills, some people get addicted within a couple days of taking pain meds. So if you're on a pain med, and most pain meds are given out in week supplies, maybe 10 or 12 for a week supply, and then you got to go to see a doctor again to get more. So if those doctors are giving you more than that, and they're not really watching you, and you've been seeing them for several weeks, and they're giving you the same thing, I mean, that's an unscrupulous doctor. I can see where there would be some liability there. In fact, that's where the liability should lie, with the doctors. They're the one that you can't get drugs any other way. You can't get prescription drugs any other way than through a doctor whose job it is to decide if they're going to prescribe their patient's medication. It's not up to the patient whether or not they're going to get prescribed something. If a doctor doesn't want to prescribe their patient something, that patient can go kick rocks. Doc doesn't do something that's going to take their license away. Doc's not going to do something that, unless they're going to do it anyway. And then that's a whole different thing. That's malpractice, and that's already illegal. So, that's where we're at. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. It's not your fault you're addicted. It's not, guys. It's somebody else's.